Alrighty, good morning everyone. It is Wednesday, July 28th, 2021, and we're going to get started with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. It's been kind of a little bit sideways up here as we try to push to new all-time highs with a pretty strong pullback yesterday. So let's see what we have in the cards for this morning. We're not going to have anything new up on these ultra high time frames. Everything's still strong with no signs of exhaustion on the quarterly, on the monthly, and then on the weekly here we did talk about the potential for there to be some type of kind of bearish exotic divergence off the highs right now. But we do have 3 more days of market action, so we really can't say too much about the current candle. So right now, things still also looking fairly strong here on the weekly. And then on the daily, you can see that we did have a little bit of a pullback.
Good morning, Jay.
Okay, so let me go back here just I'll wait for Matt to log in here. So you didn't really miss much, but I will just go ahead and go through quarterly and monthly, both looking very strong here, especially considering those candles there, both looking very, very strong. Weekly has this potential for this bearish exotic type of setup with the RVI making the same high, but we have pushed to new highs on price, so we have that there. Although, again, that candle has 3 more days, and so a lot could change even within the next 30 minutes. So we'll watch that. Our daily here, we don't have any signs of exhaustion up top, but we did get the pullback yesterday. And so we have this very bearish candle that closed with a huge wick to the downside. So there is something to be said about that. So somewhat of a bullish sign there off of the previous daily low at 64.75, but definitely no indications from a divergence perspective up in this area. So daily still looks pretty strong because we don't have any signs of reversal up top there. So do keep in mind that this candle, although it has that bullish wick on the bottom end, is what's known as a bearish engulfing candle. So engulfing essentially the last 2 days of price action to the downside. So maybe a little bit more ambivalent on our daily right now. When we get to our 4-hour, we did have a very clear bearish divergence that we talked about, I believe, yesterday, off of the previous daily high, which was our all-time high. And so we got the pullback, so not too surprising from that indication, although remember there weren't any other indications of that on other time frames. So it was just that one time frame. We did get a little bit of a pullback here, and then bounced at 64.75, which yesterday happened to be a prediction point, and we did have some nice confluence of divergences off that low. And so now here we are kind of stuck in a situation where we need to break out from either end here. So if we break below 64.75, we're going to want to look for things below us here. It's not, what I would say here is we don't have enough of a bearish case off of the all-time high to expect some type of major pullback. So, or sell-off, something that's going to come all the way down into the 4200s or something like that. That is definitely not in the cards, but we could see a break of 64.75 to look for a bounce a little bit deeper, and we could take into consideration that we do have this huge push up from about July 18th, 19th up to our new all-time high at 1675 up here. And so if it does break through this 64.75, we have some retracement levels to consider, and some of the price action that we have below us. So we'll have to watch that if they get through 64.75 this morning. Let's go down to our 60-minute, and you can see the retracements here and a little bit more resolution on price. And so there is some interesting stuff right around 38 to 50% of this whole leg up if they do break down here. Now, from a divergence perspective, we talked about this yesterday. Really no signs of exhaustion off the all-time high, which really, it tells me that we are going to be going higher. And so that's something we want to keep in mind here. Also, the overnight low or the previous daily low here does not necessarily have the strongest bullish indication from a 60-minute perspective. So the thing I'm kind of seeing here is we don't have indications that we're high enough for a full-on reversal or correction in the market. But I'm also noticing we don't have the strongest bull signals off the previous daily low, which tells me we could pull back a little lower. So this is one of those mornings where we might not have kind of a grand kind of star alignment of signals. We're going to have to take this maybe a little bit more level by level and signal by signal until we start to get an agreement between all the time frames. So let's go down to the 30-minute here. And remember, we're doing all of this so that essentially we can find the mornings where the stars do align and we get a clear picture of what we could expect to happen in the market. And so this morning, it might just be a little bit more hazy than usual. When we get to our 30-minute here, the 30-minute also did not have an agreement off of that all-time high at 1675. So no bearish indication on the 30-minute. Remember, the only time frame that really gave us an indication of a pullback up here was the 4-hour. So there was no agreement with the time frame above it or now a few time frames below it. So I think that tells me that we're going to continue to go higher here. And then off the overnight low, we do see a little bit, or previous daily low, we do see a little bit of a bullish case that could be made off of that test of 64.75, since we do have this candle and this candle flush there right at 64.75 with a little bit of a push down. Not necessarily the most powerful type of setup, but we do have that on the 30-minute off that low. And again, we're really kind of in a situation here where the time frame above us, the 60-minute, and then the time frame above that at the 4-hour does not really give us any strong indication from this low. We just start to see it as we get down to some of these shorter time frames. And so that could mean that it just gave us this bounce from 64 to 04. But we'll have to kind of see today. So that's that on the 30-minute. 10-minute has a nice clear bullish divergence off that previous daily low. But again, we're up 40 points now. And so that could be all that this indication gives us. And then off the all-time high up here, still arguably no bearish indication up there. And so really the only time frame giving us a bearish indication was the 4-hour. And now we're all the way down to the 10-minute and no agreement up there. So that's kind of where we're going to have to leave it this morning. We don't really have a strong alignment of signals to give us a clear picture of what we could expect, and that's just how it goes some days. So we're going to have to take it with the bias that we don't necessarily have an indication that we've made a really strong high here, and then we're going to get some strong sell-off. But we also don't have the strongest confluence of signals from the previous daily low, so that could mean that we could pull back here and maybe go a little bit deeper. And then maybe once we get to one of the deeper retracement levels, if we go back to our 60-minute here, then we'll start to get a buildup of signals that all agree on a larger bounce. So I'll leave that with you guys this morning. And as we get closer to the open, we can look for some nice clear setups if they do occur. I don't think that there's any interesting levels over in here, to be honest with you. You can see that we bounced out of the previous daily low here and created this leg up. and this leg pushed all the way to 0175 in the Globex session yesterday afternoon, going into the evening on the East Coast there. And when price pulled back, it bounced essentially right off our interesting level at 83 and got a bullish divergence down here. At least I can see it on the 10-minute. And then we got a continuation higher here. So defending that 50% is definitely somewhat of a bullish indication here. And we could technically redraw this to get our retracement levels of this whole push up. But it is very messy over in here. So the bounce out of 83 was really pretty here. It happened just a few hours before midnight on the Pacific. And outside of that, I don't really see anything over in this general area that kind of lights anything up for me. So it's just very choppy, and we have a lot of prices close together over in here, including the prediction points themselves. We do have 3 prediction points all within 2 or 3 points of each other here. And then you can see once we get above that highest prediction point at 43.90, we then have a huge gap all the way back essentially to the previous daily high, and then the all-time high up here. And then if we get below the area where we bounced last night, it brings us all the way back down to the bottom end of this push. So it's going to be kind of a little more tricky this morning. And not really, just kind of interesting to point out here again from a retracement perspective. The same situation kind of yesterday where we had this leg up right from the previous daily low, at least on that day. So the daily low for the 26th, pushing up into the high of the day, which was the high for this general area. You draw a fib on that, price pulled back, bounced right off the 61.8 retracement, and then they attempted to bring it higher, just there was not enough strength to continue there. So right off the 61.8 of this daily leg, and then here you can see from the previous daily low to now the most recent high, we pulled back and bounced off the 50%. So again, this stuff has been happening really often here for the last, well, if you just zoom out and look, for this push, it's been a push to a nice kind of defined pullback, to a push, to a nice defined pullback here, and it just kind of continued to happen. Another push, where's the low of this day from here up to there, got a little bit more of a protracted pullback. And then as we get back up here, here's the leg push up to the new all-time high, pull back to the 61, and then here's that pullback to the 50%. So again, retracements are very, very useful.